Today, I'm counting down 10 tourist destinations where the main attraction is the genuine possibility that something could go terribly wrong. These are places with no guardrails, no safety nets, and in some cases no good explanation for why they're legal. You have been warned. Let's start with number 10. The swing at the end of the world, Baños in Ecuador. On a hillside overlooking the town of Baños de Agua Santa in central Ecuador at a seismic monitoring station called Casa de Arbol, or the Treehouse, there's a swing. It's not a playground swing or a tourist attraction that was designed, engineered, and safety tested by a team of professionals. It's a wooden seat tied to two long ropes hanging from a branch of a tall tree, and when you sit on it and push off, you swing out over the edge of the hill. Your legs will dangle above a drop of several hundred feet. The original swing had no safety harness, and no seatbelt and no net, no formal safety measures of any kind. You just sat there on a wooden plank, held the ropes, and swung. If you fell, and that was it. Well, this swing was originally installed by the caretaker of the seismic station as a way to pass the time between readings, and it became famous almost by accident after photographs and videos of tourists swinging over the valley silhouetted against the clouds went viral on social media and travel blogs in the early 2010s. The image was so immediately compelling that the swing at the end of the world became one of the most photographed tourist experiences in South America almost overnight. Today though, the swing has been upgraded with safety harnesses, and there are now several additional swings and viewpoints and attractions at the site, reflecting the reality. This place is transformed from a lonely station into one of Ecuador's most visited spots. That original swing though, the simple one, the ropes and plank original, remains the one that draws the people from around the world. And the pictures taken from it with the volcano and the clouds and the terrifying drop below are some of the most iconic travel images ever captured. Number 9. Sky Lodge Adventure Suites, Peru. Alright, imagine this hotel room made entirely of transparent glass and aluminum shaped like a capsule and bolted onto the face of a cliff 200 ft above a valley. Now imagine the only way to reach your room is to climb a 400 ft ladder with steel rungs, cables, and your own upper body strength, or to zipline across the canyon from a neighboring ridge. Now once imagine you're inside. You lie down on your bed and you look through the glass floor at 1,200 ft of empty Andean air separating you from the valley floor down below. Now imagine that you paid money for it. This is Sky Lodge Adventure Suites operated by a Peruvian adventure tourism company called Nura Vive, and it's one of the most extraordinary overnight accommodation experiences anywhere. The pods are fully transparent capsules, each roughly 24 ft long and 8 ft wide, built from aerospace-grade aluminum and polycarbonate glass. Each pod has 4 beds, a small dining area, curtains for privacy when you want it, and a private bathroom. They also have solar-powered electricity and a ventilation system. You know, because being 1,200 ft up in a sealed glass tube without airflow would turn the experience from terrifying to genuinely dangerous. The climb to reach the pods takes about 90 minutes. It involves ascending a series of metal rungs, ladders, and steel cables that are bolted into the cliff, and you're all wearing a harness clipped to a safety line. Guests who prefer not to climb can be zipped across the canyon instead, arriving at the pod from above on a series of zip lines that cross the valley at stomach-dropping heights. Either way, by the time you reach your room, you've already had enough adrenaline to last a weekend. Once you're inside though, the experience shifts from terrifying to surreal. You eat dinner, a 3-course meal prepared by the guides who carried all the ingredients up the cliff while watching the sun set over the Andes through transparent walls. As the darkness descends, Sacred Valley fills with shadow below you and the stars appear overhead in the clear mountain air. And then you realize you're sleeping in a glass capsule bolted to the middle of a cliff in the Peruvian mountains, and the only thing between you and the outside world is a few centimeters of polycarbonate. Most guests here describe sleeping as intermittent at best. Number 8. The Devil's Pool, Victoria Falls. At the very edge of Victoria Falls, it's one of the largest and most powerful waterfalls where the Zambeze River drops about 350 ft into a gorge. There's this small natural rock pool where during certain months of the year when the water level's low enough, you can swim in there right up to the edge, right up to the point where the water tips over the lip and begins its 350 ft plunge. This pool is called Devil's Pool, and the experience of lying in it, chin deep in warm river water, arms draped over the rock ledge, staring out at one of the 7 natural wonders of the world, while 500 million L of water per minute thunder over the falls, is either one of the most exhilarating or one of the most certifiably insane swimming experiences on the planet. Devil's Pool is accessible only from the Zambian side of the fall, typically between September and December when the dry season reduces the water flow. During the wet season from about February to July, the entire area is submerged under a torrent. But during the dry months that when the water drops and the rock barrier emerges, guides will lead small groups of swimmers across the top of the falls, wading through the shallow, fast-moving water into the Devil's Pool, where they can lean over the edge and look directly down the face of the boiling cauldron. There's no railing here. There's no glass barrier. The rock lip at the edge of the pool is the only thing stopping you from going over, and in places, it's barely a foot high. You are swimming in an open rock pool at the edge of one of the biggest waterfalls on the planet, and the margin between a once-in-a-lifetime photo and a once-in-a-lifetime mistake is measured in inches. The fact that the Devil's Pool is operated for years without a tourist fatality is a testament to the skill of the guides and a significant amount of good fortune. Number 7. The CN Tower Edgewalk in Canada. On the roof of the CN Tower's main pod, it's about 1160 ft above the streets of downtown Toronto. There's a metal ledge, it's 5 ft wide, it's got no walls, no railing, it's open to the wind, the rain, the snow, and whatever weather the Canadian sky decides to throw at you on any given day. And for roughly $225, you can walk on it. The CN Tower Edgewalk is the highest external walk on a building anywhere. A hands-free, untethered feeling stroll around the circumference of the tower's main pod on a 1 1/2 m wide metal platform with nothing between you and a 4-mile drop below. Your hands are free, your feet are on a metal grate through which you can see the streets and the highways and rooftops of Toronto. The wind at this height is constant, it's unpredictable and occasionally pretty fierce. Gusts can hit you from any direction, tugging at your jumpsuit and your confidence in roughly equal measure. Groups of 6 walkers go out at a time, accompanied by 2 guides. Before stepping onto the ledge, people are fitted with full body harnesses and jumpsuits and given a detailed safety briefing and asked to empty their pockets of anything that could fall. Phones, keys, coins, sunglasses, because a set of car keys, once dropped up from that height, would reach terminal velocity and hit the ground like a bullet. Once on the ledge, Hargani Warrockshire. Lean backward over the edge to look straight down between their feet in the metal grating, and if they can summon the nerve to stand with their toes over the edge of the platform, leaning into the harness with nothing in front of them but open air and the distant skyline of Toronto. The Edgewalk operates from about April to November, weather permitting of course, although weather permitting at 1100 ft has a different meaning than it does on the ground. Lightning will cancel a walk, so will sustained winds above a certain threshold. Light rain though doesn't, neither does cold. Walkers have completed the Edgewalk in drizzle, fog, and gusty autumn winds. The walk has hosted tens of thousands of people since it opened in 2011, and walkers have included celebrities too. Professional athletes, adrenaline junkies of course, and people overcoming lifelong fears of heights. And at least one couple who got engaged on the ledge, presumably because nothing says I want to spend my life with you quite like proposing while standing on a middle-grade A4 mile above a major city. The experience takes about 30 minutes and most walkers describe the first step under the ledge as the hardest, the moment your brain fully processes that you're standing outside of a building at 1100 ft with nothing solid between you and distant ground. And that you chose this voluntarily and you paid $225 for the privilege. Number 6. Trolltunga, Norway. Way up there in the highlands above the village of Oda in western Norway, at the end of a brutal 17-moment round-trip hike that climbs over 2600 ft through some of the most dramatic scenery in Scandinavia, there's a tongue of rock. It juts out horizontally from the mountain extending about 35 ft over the edge of a cliff suspended about 2300 ft above the blue-grain surface of a lake far below. There's no fence, there's no safety barrier of any kind, there's just the rock, the air, and the drop. And every year, thousands of hikers make the grueling trek to stand on the end of it, sit at the end of it, and do yoga poses at the end of it, or just lie flat on their stomachs and peer over the edge at a vertical drop that would take about 12 seconds to fall. This is Trolltunga, the troll's tongue, and it's one of the most famous natural viewpoints in Europe. The rock formation is a narrow slab of rock that was left protruding from the cliff after the surrounding rock was eroded away by glaciers during the last ice age. It extends from the mountainside at an altitude of about 3,600 feet above sea level, offering a view that stretches out across the lake, the surrounding mountains, and the silent, overwhelmingly beautiful Norwegian landscape. The hike to Trolltunga is not casual. Takes most people between 10 to 12 hours to complete the round trip, and the trail crosses exposed mountain terrain and snowfields. The Norwegian authorities here strongly recommend hiking with proper equipment, layered warm clothing, waterproof outerwear, and sufficient food and water. And during the winter months, the trail's accessible only with a certified guide. Several rescue operations have been mounted over the years for hikers who underestimated the difficulty of the terrain here, set out too late in the day, or were caught by sudden weather changes. But despite the difficulty, or maybe because of it, Trolltunga has become one of the most visited natural landmarks in Norway. In the early 2000s, roughly 800 people hiked to the tongue each year. By the late 2010s, that number had exploded to over 100,000 people, driven almost entirely by social media. The photographs taken on the tongue, the silhouettes against the sky, yoga poses there too, of course. They've been shared billions of times across every platform, making Trolltunga one of the most recognizable natural formations, but the reward at the end is genuinely earned. The queue to stand on Trolltunga during peak summer season can stretch for hours, and every person in that line is there for the same reason: to stand on a rock over a void and take a photograph that will make every person who sees it involuntarily whisper the same two words: absolutely not. Number 5. Kjeragbolten, Norway. High above a fjord in southwestern Norway, it's wedged in tightly between two cliffs at an altitude of about 3,200 feet above the fjord. There's still water below. There's a boulder there too. It's about 5 meters across, about the size of a small car, and it's suspended in a crevice between two rock walls held in place by nothing more than friction and gravity. There is no cement here. There's no bolts. There's no cables. It's just a natural boulder that became lodged in the gap between two cliffs during the last ice age about 50,000 years ago, and it's hanging above a vertical drop into the fjord below like a marble balanced on the edge of a shelf, and every year thousands of people hike 4 or 5 hours to stand on it. Kjeragbolten, literally Hag Boulder, is one of Norway's most famous natural landmarks. The hike to reach it is challenging, about 5 to 6 hours round trip from the car park at the top of a mountain road. The trail's not technically a climbing route. It's not a casual walk either. Sections involve pulling yourself up near vertical rock using fixed steel chains. When hikers do arrive at Kjeragbolten, they find a small exposed area of clifftop, with the boulder suspended in the crack below and to the side. To stand on the boulder, you step off the solid cliff edge and onto the rock. Now, that step covers about 3 ft of open air and a drop of about 3,200 ft below you. There's no railing and there's no safety line. You're not even in a harness. You just step onto the boulder, stand there, and try not to think too carefully about the fact that the only thing between your feet in a 1-kilometer fall into a fjord is a glacial stone that's been wedged in a crack for 50,000 years. The photos that are taken on this thing are among the most vertigo-inducing images in all of adventure travel. A tiny human figure standing on a round boulder wedged between two vertical cliff walls. Some visitors stand tall, arms spread wide, grinning at the camera with the confidence of someone who has made peace with their life choices. Others crouch at the center of the boulder, gripping the surface, refusing to stand fully upright. A few take one careful look at the gap below and the smooth, slightly rounded surface of the rock, and at a complete absence of any safety infrastructure. And they make the entirely sensible decision to admire the view from the cliff edge. The boulder has become so iconic that it appears in Norwegian tourism posters, airline advertisements, and the cover of at least 3 published books in the country. It's been featured in hundreds of YouTube videos and millions of social media posts. Standing up there on that rock, you're going to take photographs that will make every person who sees them feel slightly ill and wondering with each passing minute whether you're genuinely brave enough or genuinely reckless enough to do the same thing when your turn comes. Number 4. Caminito del Rey, Spain. Pinned to a limestone wall of this narrow gorge in southern Spain, about 50 miles northwest of Málaga, there's a walkway that was once considered the most dangerous path in the world. Music, the Caminito del Rey, the little path of the king. It's a narrow boardwalk that clings to the face of El Churro Gorge. This is a sheer-walled canyon carved by a river through the mountains of Andalusia. The walkway runs for about 3 mi off the cliff face, passing through the tunnels, crossing a glass-floored bridge over the deepest section of the gorge, and then traveling sections where the path is bolted to the rock over 300 feet above the river churning below. The original walkway was built in the early 1900s to provide workers with access to a hydroelectric dam deeper in the gorge. It was a concrete path about 3 feet wide pinned to the cliff with steel supports, and over the following decades, the walkway deteriorated and sections of the concrete crumbled and fell into the Music Gorge. Steel supports rusted and they buckled and the path developed gaps. By the 1990s though, it had become a destination for thrill-seekers, climbers, and adventurers who traversed the decaying path at their own risk. Several people lost their lives on the deteriorated walkway, and in 2001, the local government officially closed it. The closure was widely ignored by adrenaline tourists, which only added to the path's dangerous reputation. Pictures and videos of people crossing the crumbling, gap-riddled walkway hundreds of feet above a gorge circulated online and in adventure travel media, and the Caminito del Rey became one of the most famous and most forbidden hiking destinations in Europe. Then between 2014 and 2015, the regional government rebuilt the entire thing. The old crumbling concrete path was replaced with a new wooden boardwalk, wider, stronger, and bolted to the cliff with modern steel. Glass-floored sections were added over the deepest parts of the gorge, safety railings were installed along the entire route, and the new Caminito del Rey opened in March of 2015. And it was an immediate sensation. It drew over 600,000 people in the first 2 music years, and has since become one of the most popular hiking attractions in Spain. The rebuilt walkway is, by any modern standard, safe. The engineering is sound, the railings are solid, and the path is properly maintained, but the music setting remains absolutely, uncompromisingly terrifying. The walls rise up on both sides, sometimes only 30 feet apart, with the river roaring through the narrows hundreds of feet below, and at the climax of the route, a glass-floored bridge spans the deepest section of the canyon, offering a straight-down view through the transparent panels to the river and the rocks far beneath your shoes. But it may be one of the most dramatic walking experiences in all of Europe. This is a 3-mile cliff-face walkway through one of the deepest, narrowest gorges in southern Spain, with a history of genuine danger that hangs out over the rebuilt boardwalk like a ghost. And the setting is so visually overwhelming that the new safety music railings have made it survivable, but have absolutely done nothing to make it any less completely unrelentingly terrifying. If you're enjoying the video, please drop a like and a comment down below. It really does help the channel out. Number 3. Tiger's Nest Monastery in Bhutan. On the side of a cliff about 3,000 feet up above the floor of the Paro Valley in western Bhutan, there's a monastery that looks like it was placed there by a giant hand and just forgotten about. It's perched on a ledge so narrow and so steep that from the valley below, it appears physically impossible that anyone could have built it there at all. This is Parat Takang, the Tiger's Nest, and it's the most sacred Buddhist site in Bhutan. The most iconic image of the entire kingdom, and one of the most extraordinary buildings ever constructed. The legend says that in the 8th century, a Buddhist saint named Guru Rinpoche flew to this cliff on the back of a tigress, landed on the edge, and meditated on a cave for 3 years, 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days, and 3 hours. The monastery was built around the cave in 1692, and over the following centuries, it was expanded. It was rebuilt after a fire in 1998 and restored to its current state. Reaching it requires a hike of about 2 to 3 hours from the trailhead in Paro Valley, climbing through a blue pine forest on well-maintained but relentlessly steep trails that gain over 2,800 feet in elevation. The trail switchbacks up the mountainside, passing prayer wheels, prayer flags fluttering in the trees, and a small cafeteria at a midpoint viewpoint where hikers can stop, catch their breath, and stare across the valley. The final approach is the most dramatic. It's a steep descent down a stone staircase to a waterfall and a narrow bridge spanning a gorge, followed by a climb back up the other side directly to the monastery entrance. The waterfall cascades down the cliff beside the path, mist drifting up across the stone steps, prayer flags snapping in the mountain breeze overhead. When you finally arrive at the monastery gate and step inside, the noise of the wind and the water falls away, replaced by silence, incense smoke, and the low murmur of monks chanting in the temple halls. The view from the balconies is extraordinary. The Paarl Valley stretches out below in a patchwork of green rice paddies and white-walled farmhouses. You're standing on a wooden balcony bolted to a cliff at 10,000 ft above sea level in one of the most remote and least visited countries on Earth, inside a monastery that was built because a Buddhist saint supposedly flew to this exact spot. Whether you believe the legend is beside the point, the building is real, and the 30,000 ft drop below the balcony is very real. The experience of reaching this place, the long hike through the pine forest, the relentless climb, the first glimpse of the white walls clinging to the cliffs. It's one of the most profoundly memorable journeys in all of world travel. Bhutan does limit tourism here to protect its cultural heritage and the natural environment, and all international visitors have to book through a licensed Bhutanese tour operator and pay a daily sustainable development fee. This basically means Tiger's Nest is never crowded, the way that popular sites in other countries can be. Yeah, the trail's busy during peak season, but never overwhelmed, and the monastery itself retains the contemplative atmosphere that has defined it for centuries. It's one of the very few truly iconic tourist destinations on Earth that still feels when you arrive exactly as extraordinary as you hoped it would be. Number 2. Verzasca Dam bungee jump in Switzerland. In the Italian-speaking canton of Ticino in southern Switzerland, surrounded by chestnut forests and alpine meadows, there's a concrete dam. It's about 700 feet tall, and it holds back the waters of a lake in Verzasca Valley. And since 1993, tourists have been jumping off the top of it, face first, feet together, arms wide, and free-falling for about 7 seconds before the bungee cord catches them, and they bounce back up, dangling above the concrete floor of the dam's base like a human pendulum. The Verzasca Dam became one of the most famous bungee jumping sites in the world, not because of the height, though 720 ft is among the highest commercial bungee jumps, but because of a single scene in a James Bond film. The opening sequence of GoldenEye, released in 1995, featured Pierce Brosnan and as Bond sprinting across the top of a dam and diving off the edge in a headlong freefall. The stunt was performed by a professional stuntman, Wayne Michaels, who jumped from the actual dam for the scene, and the footage, a man diving off the edge of a 700 ft wall of concrete, was so spectacular that it immediately elevated the dam from a piece of Swiss infrastructure into a bucket list destination for adrenaline seekers. The commercial bungee operation launched shortly after the film's release, and it's been running continuously ever since, offering people of the public the chance to replicate one of the most famous movie stunts ever filmed. The jump is operated by a Swiss adventure sports company called Trekking Team, and the process is both straightforward and psychologically devastating. The participants will climb to the top of the dam through an access road. They're fitted with reinforced ankle harnesses, screaming walk across the narrow parapet to the jumping platform, and look down at 720 ft of smooth, curved gray concrete dropping below. The jumpmaster clips your harness to the cord, gives you a countdown, and then you jump, or more accurately, you fall forward off the edge and let gravity take you. The free fall lasts about 7 and 1 to 2 seconds. At 7 and 1 to 2 seconds, that feels simultaneously like a lifetime and a single frozen heartbeat. I'm sure the initial terror will hit you immediately, and then comes a second deeper wave as you realize you're still accelerating and the ground is visibly getting closer. Then the elastic finally catches. The deceleration presses your entire body weight into the harness and around your ankles, and you swing upward again in a huge pendulum arc between the towering walls of the dam, back and forth, diminishing with each swing until you're dangling motionless in the middle of a gorge. But the setting is what makes this jump categorically different from every other commercial bungee jump on the planet. You're not jumping from a bridge or over a river or a crane in a car park. You're jumping from a 700 ft concrete dam. The visual of the fall, captured by cameras mounted on the dam wall, shows the jumper plummeting down the smooth concrete face of the dam with the structure filling the entire background of the frame. That's what gives the footage a sense of scale and speed, and no other bungee location can match it. It looks exactly like a Bond film because it is. Number 1, the Mount Hua Plank Walk, China. On the southern peak of Mount Hua, this is one of China's 5 great mountains and stands about 7,000 ft above sea level in the Shanxi province of central China. There's a path that's widely considered the most dangerous tourist trail in the world. Now, it's not a path in any conventional sense. It's a series of wooden planks, each roughly about 2 ft wide, bolted horizontally to the vertical face of a granite cliff, connected to rock by iron chains and rusty metal stakes. Below the planks, there's nothing. There's no platform or net. There's no safety structure, just 2,000 ft of sheer granite dropping away to the valley floor. You're clipped into a rusty chain pressed flat against the rock face, trying very hard not to look down. The Mount Hua Plank Walk was originally constructed over 700 years ago by Taoist monks seeking a remote meditation spot on the south face of the mountain, a small temple carved into a niche in the cliff. The monks had chiseled footholds into the granite. They drove iron stakes into the cracks and laid wooden planks across them, creating a walkway that was never designed for tourists, never intended for casual use, and never under any circumstances meant to accommodate thousands of people. Getting to the plank walk requires a pretty big hike up Mount Hua itself. The North Peak route involves a steep staircase carved into the granite, called the Heavenly Stairs, where the steps are so narrow and so steep that hikers climb essentially vertically, clinging to chains bolted into the rock on either side. The plank walk is the main event, and reaching it requires descending from the South Peak. Participants will rent a harness at the entrance and then clip themselves to a steel cable that runs along the cliff face above the walkway. Then they step out onto the first plank. The plank is about 8 in wide. It's bolted to the rock face with metal brackets that may or may not have been replaced since the Ming Dynasty. And below it, the cliff drops about 2,000 ft to the forest and the valley below. The only thing keeping you on the mountain is the plank beneath your feet, the chains above your head, and the harness clipped to the cable, a harness that you desperately hope was inspected recently by someone whose definition of recently matches your own. The walk itself is about a $100 mètres long, and traveling over the cliff face in a horizontal line to a small carved platform and a Taoist shrine at the far end. Along the way, the planks narrow, the footholds get smaller, and in several places, the path transitions from planks to carved stone steps so narrow you're essentially standing on a ledge the width of a shoe. At the halfway point, the trail passes a section where the planks have been removed and you have to cross, using only carved stone footholds in the cliff, with your fingers gripping the chain above you and your face pressed against the cold granite. Pictures and videos of the Mount Hua Plank Walk are among the most viewed adventure content on the internet. The footage is extraordinary. Some of them are wearing a very specific facial expression of a person who is simultaneously regretting every decision that led them to this moment, and also realizing that the only way off the planks is to keep going forward. There's no turning back on the plank walk. The path is too narrow for two people to pass each other. You go forward, or you stay where you are. And staying where you are, 2,000 ft, up on a cliff, on a plank, the width of a cutting board, is not a viable long-term strategy. The Mount Hua Plank Walk is not the highest attraction on this list, it's not the newest, and it's not the most technologically sophisticated. What it is, though, beyond any argument, is the most genuinely, viscerally, bone-deep, terrifying tourist experience in the world. A 700-year-old path of wooden planks and carved stone bolted to the face of a sacred mountain. The human spirit can't resist the pull of an experience that is this insane, this beautiful, and this completely unforgettably terrifying. But if you think these tourist spots are scary, you won't believe our video on the scariest elevators in the world. I'll see you over there.